Football has a way of creating moments that feel inevitable long before the final whistle blows. Certain matchups carry a quiet sense of direction, shaped by momentum, tactical balance, psychological edge, and the unspoken weight of expectation. When these elements align, the outcome does not feel random, it feels authored. The matches ahead fall into that category. Each fixture presents a clear narrative, one where discipline, control, and structured superiority play the defining roles. These are not games driven by chaos or desperation, but by teams that understand how to manage space, tempo, and pressure across 90 minutes. What follows is a composed, deliberate forecast built around authority, efficiency, and game management, where the stronger side imposes its rhythm and leaves little room for doubt. Kocaelispor vs Fenerbahce. Correct score 0-2. Fenerbahce win. This encounter is defined by contrast. On one side stands a team that thrives on intensity and home energy, while on the other is a side accustomed to expectation, scrutiny, and the demand to control matches regardless of venue. From the opening phase, the rhythm is expected to lean in one direction. The visiting side enters with a clear plan: dominate possession, limit transitional risk, and force the opposition into defensive postures for extended periods. The early stages are likely to be measured rather than explosive. The visiting side has no need to rush, understanding that patience is often the sharpest weapon against teams that rely on emotional surges. The home side may show brief flashes of resistance, pressing in isolated moments and attempting to disrupt build-up play, but sustained pressure is unlikely to follow. As the match settles, territory and possession tilt decisively. Defensive organization plays a major role here. The visiting side maintains a compact shape when out of possession, cutting off central lanes and forcing play wide. Crosses are managed, second balls are contested efficiently, and the home side struggles to turn possession into meaningful chances. Shots, if they come, are from low-probability areas, easily handled by structured defending. The breakthrough arrives through accumulation rather than brilliance. Sustained pressure eventually stretches the defensive lines, creating a moment where positioning falters just enough to be punished. Once the first goal is secured, the dynamic changes. The home side is forced to step higher, opening spaces that were previously unavailable. The second goal arrives as a consequence of this shift. With more space between lines and a growing urgency from the home team, the visiting side executes with precision, sealing the match without drama. The closing stages are controlled, with possession recycled intelligently and risk minimized. The final whistle confirms a professional away performance and a deserved 0-2 victory. Tanzania Prisons vs Young Africans. Correct score 0-3. Young Africans win and over 1.5 goals. This fixture carries a clear hierarchy, and it shows from the opening exchanges. The favored side approaches the match with confidence, structure, and a deep understanding of how to dismantle defensive setups that lack mobility and depth. From kick-off, the tempo is set deliberately high, immediately pushing the opposition into a reactive stance. The home side attempts to remain compact, prioritizing defensive numbers and hoping to frustrate early momentum. However, sustained pressure quickly exposes limitations. The favored side circulates the ball efficiently, switching play to stretch defensive lines and create mismatches in wide areas. This movement forces constant repositioning, draining energy and concentration. The first goal arrives as a result of territorial dominance. It is the product of repeated entries into dangerous zones rather than a single moment of fortune. Once the opening goal is scored, composure becomes the defining trait. There is no reckless pursuit of goals, only calculated advances and intelligent spacing. The second goal follows before the opposition can regain composure. Defensive gaps widen as confidence drains, and transitions become slower. The favored side capitalizes with clinical execution, turning control into a commanding advantage. As the second half unfolds, the pattern remains unchanged. The trailing side attempts to push forward, but this only increases vulnerability. The favored side continues to dictate pace, choosing when to accelerate and when to slow the game down. The third goal arrives as a natural conclusion to sustained dominance, sealing both the result and the scoring margin. With 3 goals scored and none conceded, the match concludes with a clear statement of superiority. The requirement of over 1.5 goals is comfortably met, and the final score of 0-3 reflects the gap in quality, organization, and match intelligence. Al-Riyadh vs Al-Nassr. Correct score 0-2. Al-Nassr win. This match is shaped by authority and restraint. The visiting side enters with a reputation for control and composure, fully aware that efficiency outweighs spectacle in difficult away fixtures. From the opening whistle, the focus is on structure, positioning, and minimizing exposure to counterattacks. The home side attempts to disrupt rhythm through physicality and compact defending, but sustained pressure proves difficult to maintain. The visiting side moves the ball with patience, drawing opponents out of position and exploiting the spaces left behind. Progression through midfield is controlled, with calculated forward movement rather than forced penetration. The first goal arrives through methodical build-up. It is the result of precise positioning and exploitation of defensive hesitation. Once the lead is established, the visiting side becomes even more disciplined, limiting forward risk and forcing the home side to commit additional numbers in search of an equalizer. This shift opens channels that were previously closed. The second goal is executed with clarity and calm, extending the lead and effectively deciding the match. At this point, game management becomes paramount. Possession is retained intelligently, defensive lines remain compact, and the tempo is lowered to reduce unpredictability. The home side struggles to generate meaningful chances, facing a well-organized defensive block that leaves little room for creativity. The final stages are controlled and uneventful, culminating in a composed 0-2 victory that reflects tactical discipline and strategic maturity. Casa Pia vs FC Porto. Correct score 0-2. Porto win. This fixture represents a classic test of composure versus ambition. The home side enters with motivation and intensity, eager to challenge a more established opponent. However, the visiting side brings experience, structure, and a deep understanding of how to neutralize early pressure. The opening minutes feature energetic pressing from the home side, but this intensity is difficult to sustain. As the match progresses, possession increasingly favors the visitors. Passing sequences grow longer, movement becomes sharper, and defensive positioning remains disciplined. The first goal arrives as a result of patience. Defensive resistance eventually cracks under sustained pressure, and a moment of precision opens the scoring. This goal shifts the psychological balance, forcing the home side to reconsider its approach. In the second half, the home team attempts to increase tempo, but this only creates transitional opportunities for the visitors. The second goal is delivered with efficiency, punishing overextension and reinforcing control. From that point onward, the match settles into a predictable rhythm. The visiting side manages possession, reduces risk, and limits the opposition to speculative attempts. The final whistle confirms a routine 0-2 victory built on structure, experience, and calculated execution. Kiryat Shmona vs Tel Aviv. Correct score 0-1. Tel Aviv win. This encounter is defined by fine margins and defensive discipline. The home side prioritizes organization, aiming to frustrate and slow the tempo. The visiting side understands that patience is essential in matches where space is limited and chances are scarce. The first half is cautious, with both sides focused on positional integrity. Possession is contested, but clear opportunities are limited. The visiting side gradually increases pressure, probing for weaknesses without overcommitting. The decisive moment arrives through persistence rather than force. A defensive lapse, however minor, is enough to create the opening goal. Once ahead, the visiting side shifts into control mode, tightening defensive lines and reducing forward risk. The home side pushes forward in search of an equalizer, but structured defending limits opportunities. The final stages are tense but controlled, and the match concludes with a narrow yet deserved 0-1 victory that reflects discipline, patience, and tactical awareness. Recap: Kocaelispor vs Fenerbahce ends in a 0-2 win for Fenerbahce. Tanzania Prisons vs Young Africans finishes 0-3, with Young Africans winning and over 1.5 goals landed. Al-Riyadh vs Al-Nassr concludes with a 0-2 victory for Al-Nassr. Casa Pia vs FC Porto ends 0-2 in favor of Porto. Kiryat Shmona vs Tel Aviv finishes 0-1, with Tel Aviv taking the win. Each match follows a clear narrative of control, discipline, and efficient execution, resulting in composed victories that align precisely with the predicted outcomes.